We're going to create this fluid simulation right here, and we're not going to waste time with an intro. I have this simple scene with a perfume bottle. If you don't have a perfume bottle, here are some tutorials where I'm going to teach you how to make one. You can also download this exact scene on my Patreon page. First, with Shift A, we're going to create a new icosphere, and we're going to set the number of subdivisions here to 1. We're going to place this icosphere behind the perfume bottle. Our camera is positioned in front of the bottle like this, and you want to make sure that you cannot see the icosphere behind the bottle. Now in object mode, you want to select this icosphere, go up here to object, quick effects, quick liquid. That's going to create this block right here. This is the domain for your fluid simulation. The entire fluid simulation is going to happen inside this cube, and it cannot go outside of it. So press tab to edit the shape of this box. You want to make sure that it includes the perfume bottle. We're also going to make it a little bit wider. Take the face from the back here and bring it as close as possible to the icosphere, but make sure that it does not touch the icosphere. In my case, it looks like this, but I might change the shape later. Now select the perfume bottle, go to physics properties, click on fluid, set the type here to effector. Now that means that once fluid hits this object, it's going to collide this object instead of just passing through it. Next, select the icosphere, and in the physics properties tab, you're going to change the flow behavior from geometry to inflow. That means this object is going to bring new fluid into the scene. Open up your animation timeline, set the marker to frame 0. Right now, when you play the animation, you're going to see that fluid falls down from this icosphere. We want this fluid to hit the bottle, so it has to be moving from the right to the left, which means we have to give it some initial velocity. That way it's going to behave like a garden hose. So down here, you're going to check initial velocity, and you're going to set the initial X value to something like 15. Now, when you play the animation, this is what you get. This is a little bit closer to the result that you want. Now, you're going to have to play around with this a little bit to see what gives you the best splash. You might have to lift up the icosphere a little bit so it hits a different part of the bottle. You also might want to bring this icosphere a little bit closer. If you do that, make sure to scale it down so you can't see it. I'm going to place mine somewhere around here, because that way when I play the animation, the splash looks something like this, and I think that's pretty good. Increasing the initial velocity is going to make the fluid hit the bottle with a higher speed, which means it's going to splash all over the place, and it might give you a cooler result. Currently, we just have particles, but we want to make this look like a liquid. So we're going to select the domain, and then in the physics properties tab, you're going to scroll down to where you see mesh. Check that box. Now when you go back to frame 0 and play the animation, you're going to see that now you have a mesh. Since I brought the icosphere closer to the perfume bottle, I'm going to take this wall from back here and bring it a little bit closer as well. In this case, we're not going to worry too much about what happens after the splash, because I only want the animation to come up to around this point somewhere. After that, it's going to splash against the surface in the front, so you might want to change that if you're looking to make a different simulation. Currently, this fluid looks shitty, so we're going to go back to frame 0, select the domain, scroll up to the top of the physics properties tab, and you're going to change the resolution here to something like 128. It's a really good idea to save your file at this point, because this shit is going to crash on you randomly, especially if you don't got a strong computer. So whenever you're working with simulations, make sure to quick save that shit all the time. When you play the simulation for the first time, it's going to be extremely slow, but on the second go, it's going to be a lot faster. That way, we're going to get a better preview of what this is going to look like, and then we're going to be able to set up the materials, and at that point, we're going to be able to render the scene. Now, here's another important thing that you can do here. I don't want liquid to be coming out of this icosphere the whole time. I just want a little bit of liquid to come out, and that's it. So I'm going to place my marker somewhere on frame 5, and I want liquid to be coming out between frame 0 and frame 5. And then after that, I want no more liquid to be created. So in object mode, we're going to select the icosphere. In the physics properties tab, you're going to find where it says use flow. There's this little button right here. You're going to click on that. That's going to create a keyframe which saves this particular setting on this particular frame. Then you're going to move to frame 6, and on frame 6, you're going to uncheck use flow, and you're going to click on this button right here again. That means that from frame 6 on, we no longer have any flow. So now only in the first 5 frames, we got liquid coming in, and after that, we're done. That's going to make everything a little bit faster. Now, another thing that you probably want to do here is make this animation slower. To do that, you can select a domain and go down here to time scale. Instead of having this on 1.0, you can set this to something like 0.25. This is going to slow down the simulation to 25% of its original speed. You can also change the speed throughout the animation. For example, you can keyframe this on 0.250 up until frame 20 or something like that. And then after that, you can set this even lower to something like 0.1, keyframe that, and that's going to make your simulation vary in speed throughout the animation. After we let this buffer, we get something like this. I don't want to give it enough time to hit the walls. So in this case, I would only play this up until around frame 43, but that would only make it about 1.5 seconds long at 30 frames per second. So it might be a better idea to slow down the simulation after frame 20. And that's going to give you more time in this phase, which is after the fluid touched the bottle and before it touched the walls. So in this case, I'm going to move to somewhere around frame 17. This is where the fluid touches the bottle. And with the fluid selected, now I'm going to keyframe time scale here at 0.25, and then at around frame 26, I'm going to reduce this to 0.1. Then I'm going to keyframe this again, which means that after frame 25, it's going to be slower and it's going to smoothly transition between these two frames. You can place this a little bit earlier if you want to, but now we have to let this buffer again. Now our animation is going to be a little bit longer, so now it looks like this. Now switch over to the materials tab. As you can see, Blender already creates a good material for this substance. You can go over to the material properties tab here, change the color to whatever is more suitable for this scene. I'm also going to slightly increase the roughness because I think that looks better. Here's a viewport rendered preview of the scene. Now we're going to go to frame 0. Output properties, resolution 1080 by 1080 because that's ideal for Instagram. 30 frames per second. File format FFmpeg video. Here you can choose the output folder where you want to save this animation. Set the container to MPEG 4. Output quality, I usually go with perceptually lossless. Everything else is pretty good as is. Now go up here to render animation, and you're done. If you want to learn more about Blender 3D or how to build a professional portfolio or how to get paid clients and paid work as a 3D artist, you can learn about all of that inside my Blender course. You can check that out with the link below. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next one.